business, healthcare. So the parliamentarian, can you read the legislation?
A bill to abolish the subsidization of health insurance provided by the state. Bill enacted by the Student Congress here assembled that Section 1. This bill seeks to regulate state policies on health insurance. By that the state will no longer pay or assist in the payment of health insurance. The people will have the freedom to buy health insurance provided by the private businesses of their preference. Section 2. Health insurance traditionally covers the cost of medical examination and treatment. It also pays compensation for the insured in case of accidents. Section 3. The Ministry of Health will oversee the enforcement of the bill along with specific enforcement mechanisms. 1. This bill will be enforced nationwide. 2. This bill will be applied to all state hospitals and parties involved in the current health insurance system. Section 4. This bill will be enforced by the 1st of January 2017. Section 5. All laws in conflict with this legislation are hereby declared null and void. Respectfully submitted, Mike Wang.
Is there an author in the House? The chair recognizes you.
As the author of this bill, I firmly believe that for all citizens, healthcare should be considered a service and not a right. The concept of universal healthcare is deeply misguided and flawed, especially in Vietnam, because firstly, its implementation has incurred gargantuan costs on the states. Secondly, it is not actually beneficial to the citizens. Thirdly, other issues like economic development and poverty relief should take precedence. Last year, the government overspent 2,200 billion Vietnam dong on healthcare insurance, 82.29 billion dong alone, due to errors in insurance card distributions. The rest has been proven to be the result of insidious manipulations by the parties involved. Ever since the 2008 implementation of the bill for healthcare insurance, many clinics have reported an impossible increase in the number of patients per 6-month cycle. Bắc Giang province has An clinic which reported a 2,825.4% increase. According to the spokesperson of Vietnam Social Insurance, there are clinics who have demanded an amount of reimbursement for healthcare insurance services that amount to 100 billion Vietnam dong, enough to cover for a whole province. More astoundingly, however, these parties have been proven time and time again to be ineffective. In most cases, they lack basic facilities and are usually overcrowded. Their doctors also perform more poorly due to a lack of market-induced competitive incentive. It is a universal and well-known fact that private sector doctors, by dint of getting paid by the patients, actually invest more effort into their work. For starters, they might be physically present in their clinics. In many countries, like India, with social and economic conditions similar to those of Vietnam, it is common for 80% of the population to rely on private sector healthcare when they encounter illnesses, only using their insurance cards to obtain more drugs than they actually need and resell them on the black market to add to their meager income. Instead of subsidizing a system that does not work, why does the government not focus their resources on actually raising the minimum wages of these people and making sure that their life standards rise and they are able to obtain the superior health services that they deserve? My fellow senators, I hope that the evidences and reasons hitherto presented are enough to convince you to vote for the implementation of this bill, which will end once and for all the money-wasting system that is healthcare insurance. Thank you.
That was a speech of 2 minutes and 46 seconds. We now move to the mandatory questioning period of 2 minutes. All questioners, please rise.
With the current influx of population in Vietnam, don't you think that the number of 9.2 is nowhere near the amount of money, the amount of tax that the population, the Vietnamese, have to pay each year?
I recognize that the amount of tax that the Vietnamese people have to pay each year is very large, and healthcare adds to this large amount of tax. We need to make the people's living standards become higher by reducing these tax levels, and I believe that my bill will do so.
Senator Wang.
Senator, I'd like to ask if you considered consequences of the abolishment of the current health insurance policy.
Well, Senator, I've heard times and times again that this program is supposedly created for the poor people, for the people who cannot afford healthcare. However, as we are seeing in reality, it is only wasting the government's and by extension the taxpayers' money without actually doing much because of the poor quality. Most people, when granted a health insurance, do not use it. So what would the consequences be of abolishing the system?
Thank you.
We still have a minute left. If there are no questions retained, the speaker may be seated.
Thank you.
That was an authorship speech. Now in turn for opposition speech. All wish to speak in negation, please rise. Senator Wang, you have the floor.
Fellow Senators, recognizing the arguments made in favor of this bill, it is agreeable that there are certain flaws and loopholes in this current health insurance policy. However, my opposition has yet to consider the undeniably crucial benefits that this policy brings about and the consequences of its abolishment. Currently, there are 61 million Vietnamese residents, that is about 69% of the population, have registered for health insurance. And according to the statistics released by a recent interview with the head of the healthcare department of the nation, 14.3 million of them are those of ethnic minorities or are in the state of poverty, and 2 million of them are those with financially challenged backgrounds. These considerable numbers themselves are evident for the primary and crucial benefits of the current health insurance policy. There is no denying that Vietnam still contains a substantial amount of financially crippled individuals and households, and therefore such monetary support provided by this health policy is vital to the well-being of a specific community. Without existence of such policy, many families will not be able to gather sufficient financial resources to afford health inspections, checkups, medical, surgical treatments that they need when confronted with unexpected illness or accidents. Whereas with their health insurance, they can receive financial support up to 100% coverage of their medical bill. It is also important to bear in mind that systems are bound to errors and flaws, which are inevitable by nature. Therefore, it is true that economic loophole exists in this health insurance policy, where they cause considerable financial loss to the government and are taken advantage of by malicious individuals who export medicine to the black markets, who, to be precise, are of small minority. However, there is no guarantee that shutting down such policy will mollify the problem at hand, and not to mention aggravate it, as far as the visible consequences of such actions aforementioned are concerned. Therefore, Senators, I recommend that before making any adjustments to the current statuses and policy, we must consider the pros and cons of the matter at hand. Where in this case, the benefits of the current health insurance policy reasonably outweigh the financial problem faced by the government and the nation. Thank you.
That was a speech of 2 minutes and 4 seconds. We now have a 1 minute of questioning period. Questioners, please rise. Senator Kuhn.
You agree that the only reason why the economic problems are caused by the government is they get the profit, not the private sector get the profit. If the private sector get the profit, would it be better?
Well, according to my reasonings and arguments, I believe that, yes, it is true that there are financial losses faced by the government, and there are maybe better solutions and better improvements to this policy, but it must be bear in mind before abolishing this policy. You must consider the benefits that it brings about to the citizens and those of that specific financial conditions before you make any changes to it. And for your argument with the private sector, well, there are adjustments available, but it's just that abolishment of such policy is not practical.
Thank you. Senator Mai.
You mentioned the high number of people who registered for healthcare insurance. However, are you aware of the fact that most people do not actually use their health insurance for the purposes intended?
Yes, I believe that you have mentioned the fact that there is a group of people with malicious intents to export their medicines to the black market, but however, you must be reminded that this is only of a minority in the middle of a much more in-need majority. As I have stated, there are many families, to be precise, of 14.3 million of ethnic minorities and financially challenged families that actually need the help and coverage of this health insurance policy to pay for their health inspections.
The chair just want to remind all questioners and the speaker to keep the questions and answer concise. Are there any other motions?
Motion to suspend the rule.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
A.
All opposed?
Nay.
I would say the nay have it. The speaker may be seated. That was a speech in opposition. Those who wish to speak in affirmation, please rise. Senator Cook.
Yes. Okay, let's go. My fellow senators, to follow with Senator Mai's speech, I shall present to you yet more evidence of how limited Vietnamese public health insurance is. I would like to start with the fact that this health insurance is under the supervision of the Communist Party, our government, which automatically means strictly constructed regulations on drug use and financial aiding. The rigidity of many drug policies regarding to state health insurance is limiting a lot of unconventional but beneficial uses of medical implements in fields such as cardiology, osteology, and psychiatrics. This forcing doctors and surgeons alike to unwillingly comply with an outdated ailing scheme that has a higher possibility of causing physical agonies to their patients. Wait, then how can the people get health health insurance if it's not coming from the state? Well, the answer is credibility, not affordability. Privatization is now on a much bigger scale that is no longer inaccessible to the poor, and with help of provincial office, health companies would be able to manage the demographic construct and reach out to the most destitute people there are. Because after all, just like how Senator Mai said it, health insurance is not a right, but a service. And the people who want to get that service will get what they deserve. All in all, I have seen all kinds of effort from the government to propagate the merits of the service. Yes, yet almost 40% of us still abstain from using it. This proves that the people are not in need of such a corrupted and inefficient medical provision. Thank you.
That was a speech of 1 minute and 52 seconds. All questioners, please rise. All senators, Zoom.
Mr. Senator could realize that the corruption rate in Vietnam is extremely high, and by using the health.
I would rule that as a run-on question. Senator Lee.
It's an undeniable fact that this planet is deteriorating, and double with the fact that there's an increase in diseases and illnesses, and the fact that children are more prone to the diseases and ailments than the adults. Don't you think that children need the healthcare service more than ever? Yes, and I'm suggesting their parents to register for a private sector-owned healthcare insurance, not state, because it's not quality. And they can help. They can have the aiding from the state, like demographic construct. They will have like the list of the people who live in an area, and they will give it to the private companies, and they will take care of it.
Okay. The questioning period has concluded. The speaker may be seated.
Thank you.
That was a speech in affirmation. Those who want a speech in negation, please rise.
Motion?
Please state your motion.
Motion to move to the previous question.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
A.
All opposed? We now move to the previous question, which is voting on the bill. All senators who support this bill, please rise. And sit down. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those who oppose this bill, please rise. 1, 2. Since the two-thirds majority of the House is 4 senators, this bill does pass.
Motion.
Please state your motion.
Motion to adjourn the debate.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
A.
All opposed? The debate is over.